In an election season overshadowed by recession, one American neighborhood is booming. Harlem is the hot new destination for million-dollar condos and big brand shopping. But longtime residents ask, boom for whom?
From the heart of Harlem in New York City, I'm Avi Lewis, and this is Inside USA. One of the world's most famous neighborhoods is being transformed. Harlem, for 9 decades the cultural center of the African-American world, is now the final frontier for New York City real estate. And that means thousands of new condominium units, renovated brownstones with skyrocketing rents, Starbucks and other big brands moving in a word, gentrification. It also means that working class families are being displaced, even as the culture that they created and kept alive for generations is being used as the marketing pitch for all of this new development. Now, it's not as simple as rich white people taking over a traditionally black neighborhood. What's happening here is happening at the complex intersections of race and class in America. But for families who are fighting to save their homes, it's very simple. On this week's Inside Focus, we take a look at the battle for the soul of Harlem.
New York City is famous for being one of the most expensive places in the world to live. Recession or not, up it goes. This year, the average price of an apartment hit a record $1.7 million. As they say in New York, they're not making any more island. And so gentrification is systematically spreading through working class communities. Harlem's turn was bound to come. Harlem has always been many things at once. Solid working class neighborhood of African Americans and new immigrants, star-studded cultural capital with world-famous nightclubs, political hotbed in the 1960s, in recent times a place where mainstream politicians must make pilgrimage. But Harlem is changing, as luxury apartments and condos spring up everywhere. Grand old brownstones are getting multi-million-dollar facelifts. The smell of money is in the air. All of this development is challenging Harlem's historic identity and sense of community. For many Harlemites, it feels like an invasion.
The white people taking over, simple as that. You want me to be honest? The white people trying to push the black people out. It is what it is.
On a holiday Monday in Marcus Garvey Park, we meet George Fleming. He's a lifelong Harlem resident who works as an operating room assistant at a nearby hospital.
You want to know what gentrification in this community is? This is gentrification in progress. This is all high-income housing. The average working African-American, Hispanic, Asian, if you're working 3 jobs, yeah, you can get up in here. But if you're a working everyday guy straight 9 to 5, you better find another job, because everybody in Harlem is working their ass off to keep the little bit of space they have now.
With passion so close to the surface on this issue, it's no surprise that the community is organized and fighting back.
And welcome to Inside Housing. I'm your host and producer, Nellie Hester Bailey. Folks, what we want to do is lay out for you the fact that this is part of the 125th Street development from the East River all the way over to the Hudson River.
We want 25% of the entire project. Why? You didn't include us in the first place. And we need to be a partner with this because it has to guarantee that we're going to be here in another 99 years. And this is not a plan of gentrification in disguise to eventually remove all of us, sending us nowhere. We're not going to allow that without a fight.
At issue is a massive rezoning of 125th Street.
Microphones work?
Billionaire Mayor Michael Bloomberg wants to transform Harlem's main thoroughfare into a regional business hub with 30-story office towers and some 4,000 new condos and apartments.
Everything is skyrocketing here.
Sekulu Shange runs the legendary Record Shack, which has been on 125th Street for 60 years. He sees the rezoning as an existential threat.
We are being moved from serious rent into unaffordable levels. Now, I haven't heard anything how in the world are we going to be able to afford the type of rents which are being asked here. That is another way of evicting people. That is another way of colonialism being manifested in a different way.
Originally, the city claimed that under the rezoning, almost half of the new housing would be moderately priced. When it turned out that only 5% would be affordable housing, anger spilled over at City Hall.
Clear the balcony, Sergeant at Arms.
But in the end, the politicians passed the plan by an overwhelming margin. All 3 city councilors from Harlem voted for it. All 3 also declined to grant us an interview. Even the business community is muted in its praise.
I was for it with conditions. And I'm sad to say that even though my councilwoman worked behind all to get some changes in the zoning, we didn't get what we thought we needed.
At the end of the day, is it a win-win? Yes, it is. Did the developers win more than they should? Yes, they did. But the community won something in this battle too, and heretofore this community hasn't won anything in these battles.
On the surface, this may look like just another local real estate battle, but this is New York. In a world center for finance capital, there are always larger forces at play.
The fact that this is being done with the full support and the complicity of the elected officials of Harlem speaks volumes to the importance of this campaign, the real estate industry that fills the campaign coffers of these elected officials.
Across town in West Harlem is a project that could dwarf other development plans. Columbia University is embarking on a $7 billion expansion that will bulldoze 17 acres of the Manhattanville neighborhood. When the university looks at these faded blocks of auto body shops, apartments, and storage facilities, it sees a gleaming futuristic campus that will create thousands of jobs and bring new life to the area.
It will be open, no gates, no walls, welcoming. There will be a 1-acre park and other open spaces. We think it will go from really a pretty, this industrial feel to it, to a lively, interactive community.
But for local residents like Tom DeMott, Manhattanville is already a lively community, and Columbia's vision of the future will begin by razing it to the ground.
Bueno, muy bien. Okay. They can't imagine, you know, a world which would actually share a community because they don't give a damn about the community because they don't even understand it. You know, it's small wonder that they believe that, well, if we can, you know, throw a few $100,000 into the Apollo Theater, well, we'll be saving the cultural diversity of the neighborhood. But that's not it at all. This is a working class community. This is a community where people stood on soapboxes for years and years. That's the way they got their message out. This is a community of democracy. This is a community of life, music, outside culture, and all the rest. They don't see it, they don't understand it, they don't have the imagination to grab hold of it.
But before a single shovel hits ground, projects like 125th Street and Columbia are already pushing the pace of gentrification. And that pace can only be described as blistering.
Wow, this is really a lovely
Yes, so this is our model apartment.
Average apartment prices here jumped 93% last year alone.
This is really, really nice.
Condos like this one are over $700,000.
I'm very impressed.
Brownstones like this one, $3.2 million. But for the upwardly mobile moving from lower Manhattan, believe it or not, those prices seem downright reasonable.
There are a lot of nice buildings around here, a lot of nice buildings that need work, that can be worked on. It's still cheaper, and just like the Lower East Side, Hell's Kitchen changed, it's really inevitable that this part of the city is going to change like that. It's just a natural flow of things.
Peter Kaganowitz is a surgeon.
Unsure about their financial future. Demand action at
He and his family recently bought a brownstone in Harlem as an investment property.
Enough is enough.
If it can be done correctly, where you can actually bring money into the community for existing structures, then I think it's a good thing. But if it's done, I guess you say, with a conscience.
But tales of landlord harassment are very common in the new Harlem. Margie Powell has been in this home for 30 years. She worked in advertising at the New York Times for most of them. She brought up her kids here, lived with and lost her husband here. This apartment is rent-controlled. Margie pays only $700 a month for a place that is huge by New York standards. Since Harlem started booming, she says her landlord has been sending not-so-subtle messages.
It got to a point where it was like living in the street. You never knew when you were going to have lights. You never have, it's till this day, it's still a problem with heat and hot water. I mean, definitely heat and hot water, a problem.
What do you think they're trying to tell you with this?
Get out. They want to compound as many problems as possible to make you unhappy.
Disregard and file a claim anyway.
Margie's daughter Kim is a lawyer and tenant activist. Their landlord, the Pinnacle Group, is one of New York's biggest. In one 2.5-year period, Pinnacle issued eviction notices to 5,000 of its 21,000 tenants. Pinnacle says it was the Powells who were the problem. In an email, the company said, quote, "In the case of Ms. Powell's apartment, we were denied access and had to pursue legal action in order to make repairs. In a separate incident, Ms. Powell's mother was arrested for vandalizing the building."
I wouldn't let them into the apartment. I thought that was hilarious. They actually came here and said, "Well, Mrs. Powell, we came because Pinnacle said, you won't let them pay." I said, "You better believe I won't let them pay." I said, "They couldn't step across this door sill with a can of paint." I said, "They are pigs. They don't know, they're unprofessional, and they screwed up my apartment."
Back in Marcus Garvey Park, celebration seems like a form of resistance. Just staying put in the community, in the face of gentrification, in the midst of recession, is a kind of victory. Especially when the powerful forces transforming Harlem just keep coming, in boom and bust.
We are a third world colony in a first world country. That's what gentrification is. It isn't simply a matter of, oh, some white people are moving to Harlem. We're talking about the globalization of gentrification in Harlem and what that means for the destruction of the historic community of Harlem.
From all the years people have been talking about, we need affordable housing. We need more support for better living conditions here. Those better living conditions are coming, and we're being pushed out. That is the truth about the whole system, how it works. The writing is already on the wall. We can raise our voice as high as we can, but if we don't have the support in our city council and we don't have the support of our congressmen, we're just blowing in the wind. And we already know we're blowing in the wind.
We've got to take a break, but when we come back, much more from Harlem on Inside USA.